Alright guys, welcome back to my Animal Adventures YouTube channel. And for those of you that have been watching for a while, I know you guys, most of you guys, I'm pretty sure you guys are reptile experts. And some of the questions you ask underneath the videos, they're pretty advanced. And this year, actually for my Christmas card, I sent out a picture of it was actually one of the reptile shows that I was vending at, and the whole Christmas card was my whole display case full of snakes with and I was standing behind the case, and that was the whole picture on the front of my Christmas card. And of course, sending out a Christmas card full of snakes gets some interesting comments. And a lot of the comments, you know, you start talking to some friends and relatives that have actually received that card, and they're like, I can't believe you actually are breeding snakes. and you get some pretty interesting comments. And I think one of the biggest comments is they didn't understand the difference between the different types of snakes. So I would tell them, yeah, I'm breeding ball pythons, and they're like, oh, pythons, don't they get really big? And and they couldn't understand where the ball comes in, the ball pythons in the hole. I mean, for someone who's not used to snakes, I thought it was kind of interesting, because on this side of the hobby, we're really deep into it. You know, we have a lot of equipment, a lot of snakes, and we're talking genetics and really deep stuff. And then you kind of have someone from the outside coming in and have no clue about snakes and the different kinds of snakes. So in this episode, I thought I'd start with something really simple and break it down and introduce you to the amazing ball python. Okay, so first let's talk about why they are called ball pythons. And they're called ball pythons because when they're scared, they coil up into a ball. And this one actually isn't that scared right now, but if you scare them, they coil up into a tight little ball, and it's one of the only snakes that balls up when it's scared, thus the name ball python. So here's another type of ball python. You can see it's a little bit more balled up, and believe it or not, ball pythons are the #1 pet snake of all pet snakes. And one of the reasons is because they come in so many different colors and patterns. This one happens to be lesser clown. So you have the lesser gene and the clown gene, and they're all the same species, but they come in different colors and patterns. And I think it's one of the driving factors behind making them really popular is there are over 300 base morphs in ball pythons. I think it's probably the largest number of morphs in any snake. And you can mix the different morphs together, and you can literally get millions and millions of different combinations. And every single year we're coming out with new morphs. Plus, we're also coming out with the world's first for lots and lots of different combinations of the different morphs, making the ball python one of the most popular pet snakes in the world. Okay, so here is a bigger ball python. This one happens to be a lesser female, and lesser is one of the genes. This is just a straight base gene, a single gene female. And ball pythons actually come from West Africa, from Ghana, Benin, and Togo. And the natural environment where they typically live is they live underneath abandoned termite mounds basically in caves under the ground, and they just sit and wait for rodents to come in. There's only one thing on the diet, and that is rodents. And typically when we keep them in captivity, we keep them in some kind of an enclosure that has a dark hide, and that simulates their natural environment. And if you keep them in like in a glass aquarium, you need a hide that they can retreat to, or if you keep them in a rack system, the gray tubs I find work the best, and it simulates where they come from in their native environment. So the other thing that makes ball pythons a popular pet is this is pretty much the biggest they get. This is one of the biggest females that I have, and I say by far you'd be hard pressed to find a snake that's any bigger than this. And it's big enough to be impressive, like wow, that's a big impressive snake, but not too big for one person to handle. And I think that's another reason why they make really good pets. So another interesting fact about ball pythons is they can be an investment animal. And take a look at this. I actually hatched this little lemon blast scaleless head out this year, and when I hatched it out, the market was really hot for scaleless heads, and believe it or not, this little snake right here, they were selling for $6,000 when I hatched them out. It's pretty crazy. And the most expensive ball python that I have ever seen for sale was $150,000 for one snake. And let me tell you, there's a huge drive as far as investing and getting a return on investment for some of these animals, and that's another thing that really drives the hobby, is the investment side of ball pythons. So here's my albino pied male. This thing is really stunning, one of my favorite snakes, and I would say if you notice on a lot of these snakes, they don't really move that much. And when I bring people down in their first time experience with snakes, if I give them a king snake or something like that and it moves really fast, they kind of get freaked out. Versus if I hand them a ball python, the ball python doesn't really move, it doesn't really try to get away, and I think that's another reason it really is popular with people, because especially for people that are kind of freaked out with snakes, you pick up a ball python and it doesn't really move enough to frighten people. So take a look at this girl, pure white spider pied. It's nicknamed the White Wedding, another one of my favorite combos. And another thing that really makes especially ball pythons really nice pets, makes them really popular, is that they can go off of feed. And as a matter of fact, I've had them go off of feed for like 8 months, and they'll stop eating for 8 months and they'll be perfectly fine. And I don't know of any other animal that can stop eating for 8 months and not really be negatively affected. And it's one of the cons, I would say, as far as keeping ball pythons, is some people say they kind of get freaked out when the snakes go off of feed, and they think they should eat every week, and it's not really necessary. As a matter of fact, I think it's just natural for the snakes to go off of feed when they reach certain sizes and at a certain maturity. So take a look at this bamboo male. This thing is stunning. And another reason that they're so popular with the pet trade is that if you're looking for a snake, you can find ball pythons in almost any color and pattern. They're pretty amazing. This is just a straight gene animal, a single gene animal. So if you bred this with a normal, 50% of the babies would come out as bamboo. These are just really incredible. I think this is one of my favorite single gene animals, just the straight bamboo. And if you're looking at ball pythons, there's like 300 of these different base color and pattern mutations. It is pretty incredible working with ball pythons. Alright, so take a look at this. This is my pastel spider desert ghost female, and she's one of my most stunning ball pythons. And this is really just an introduction to ball pythons. This girl's crazy. And another thing I like about ball pythons is they're not really snappy. They don't bite you, and you really don't have to worry about getting bit unless they're in feeding mode. When you're feeding them a rat, sometimes they can actually accidentally get your hand instead of the rat. Other than that, there's typically no really aggressive ball pythons. And I thought I'd just give you kind of a primer on ball pythons, how awesome they are, and what really drives the ball python hobby as far as making them such a popular pet. So that's pretty much it for my intro to ball pythons. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.